is that we're going to try to hit on as many games as we can between now and the end of the pod. And I don't even want all three of us to give out a pick unless you're really feeling compelled to give out a pick. But we're going to try to hit on the angles, the marquee games, the games that you're most likely to watch and wager on a particular NFL Sunday. And Raheem, I'm starting with Tom Brady's first ever NFL broadcast. Your Cowboys as underdogs going into Cleveland to take on the Browns. Now, I will be very transparent about this game. I thought for sure all summer long I'd be on the Browns. I actually didn't bet on the Browns. And as we get closer and closer to kickoff, because of some of the injury concerns with Cleveland and my concern, and that's putting it mildly, with one Deshaun Watson, I'm starting to have some cold feet on laying it with Cleveland. Your Cowboys, a lot of drama. Feels like everybody's out on them. Week one, right out of the gate, against the defense that was great at home, stunk on the road. Where do we stand with the Browns and the Cowboys?
I totally agree with you. Like, we have the exact same sentiment. I thought I was going to come in and take the Browns. This line was 1.5, and, sharp money ate it up. And now you're looking at 2.5. And there's a reason why they won't go to 3. Because if they went to 3, every sharp bettor in the world will be taking the Dallas Cowboys. And if you look at the Cleveland Browns, Jedrick Willis on the offensive line, he didn't make it to practice. He was supposed to come back. He's coming off that MCL injury. You look at Jack Cotton. We don't know if he's going to play. So if you got to deal with Micah Parsons and a bad offensive line and the fact that Deshaun Watson has been the worst trade in the history of sports, how can you bet on this Browns team? I think there's value on the Cowboys, but probably wait it out, see if you can get a 3.
Oh, fellas, I'm here to tell you how you can bet on this Browns team. I loved this Browns line as soon as it opened, and this is one of the few over the course of the summer where the line flipped. So it opened at Dallas minus 1.5 and is now sitting at Cleveland minus 2.5, and that's entirely a function of the Jera circus. I mean, all of the chaos that man creates. Now, maybe it's sharp as I'm going to get my metaphor wrong. Sharp as a tack, whatever, clever fox, one of those things for the old boy, trying to create enough smoke and mirrors away from the actual football playing on the field. But here's my issue with the actual football playing on the field. Dallas and Dak Prescott does not do great outdoors on grass fields. They crush teams when you go inside a dome. And if you're in the confines of that beautiful stadium in Fort Worth that Jera built, beware if you can't keep up with the Cowboys. But this Browns team at home, 8-1 straight up, 8-1 against the spread last season at home, a defense that just pins its ears back. I'm concerned about the Dallas offensive line putting 2 rookies out there up against Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith. And look, they have no reason whatsoever to defend the run. There is no run game whatsoever coming out of Dallas. So Dallas might want to try and set up their beautiful passing game with Brandon Cooks and obviously CD and Mr. Ferguson with some play action. But why the hell would Cleveland bite on any play action? They don't need to defend the run. They don't have any running backs in Dallas. So I'm fine with laying the points with Cleveland, and I'm glad that I got Cleveland as a dog when I did.
So no cold feet for House. We'll see where I stand
is
with the Browns and the Cowboys. This reeks of an under. But is it almost too obvious? Is it almost too obvious with the under? I agree. That's the problem.
It's all the way down to 41.5.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's the problem with a total that low. If you get a defensive score or something wacky happens with the kickoff, everything you said would lean towards an under. I agree with you on that.
I'm still fine with the under. I'm even under 41.5.
You know what, though? With the new kickoff rules, we don't know how things are going to impact the total. So that's another thing that you kind of have to wait on as well.
Well, speaking of a total that we are going to be aligned on, because we've talked about it a little bit in our group chat, and the more and more I think about this total, the more and more I like it. Jacksonville, Miami, fascinating game. Was 3.5, went down to 3 last week. It's back up to 3.5. So clearly the odds makers didn't feel good leaving it at 3. They put it right back to that hook. We'll get to the spread in a minute. The total in this game, House, 49.5. Hot day in Florida. Trouble if you're a defense. Miami changes defensive coordinators, losing Christian Wilkins. Jacksonville has a questionable secondary. That's not what you want when you're going up against Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. I think the Dolphins, who played a chaotic, insane Week 1 game against the Chargers last year, score was in the 30s, came down to the bitter end. Tyreek, monster game. I think we're going to have a similar script in South Florida with the Dolphins and the Jaguars. I love that total at 49.5. Where do I sign?
Well, how about 48.5? Because that's where it is on the FanDuel Sportsbook here in Washington, D.C. as we're recording this show. I bet this total. This is another bet that I got down on in the summer because I feel like it was priced according to the version of the Dolphins that existed in the latter half of last season. Go back and look at just your point, JJ, the top half of last season and how powerful this Dolphins offense is. Now, I quietly think that Jacksonville showing up in full health on the offensive side of the ball can also move the ball some. And I do think they're catching a Dolphins defense that's not going to be able to mount very much of a pass rush. So I like the idea of Trevor Lawrence and this offense, trying to rewrite the script on how their season ended last year. I like points in this game. I like over 48.5. The only thing to be concerned about is if rain comes in, because there was this possibility of some real rainy conditions dropping in. If that comes to pass, then all of this is a wash.
Yeah, both of the Florida games have issues with some rain and some thunderstorms. So you actually saw the total. It got bet up to 50, and it's back down to about 49, 48.5. So you want to check that weather before you place this bet.
Interesting. Raheem, are you looking at Jags Miami as a game you're fired up to bet, or is this a pass for you?
Well, until I see the weather, I can't really do anything. One thing that you have to recognize is that Trevor Lawrence has really struggled with the rain. If you go back to an October 2022 game against the Philadelphia Eagles, Trevor Lawrence fumbled 4 times. So if it's rainy conditions, I do not want to be on the Jaguars. And then obviously I was looking at the over as well. But until I see those weather conditions, I can't touch him.
Fair enough. Let's get to a fascinating game in the AFC South, guys. And Raheem, this line has a little bit of a rat feel to it, in my opinion. The Texans have been everybody's darling throughout the preseason. C.J. Stroud, they won a playoff game. D'Amico Ryans, on and on we go. And I only got to lay 2.5 in Indy against the Colt defense that in the secondary can't guard me, you, and House. This line seems – I know it's a division game. I know the Colts are well coached. I know the game came down to Week 18 last year. Dream, this 2.5 line reeks of a rat. It reeks.
Okay, so obviously divisional home dogs are moneymakers. Divisional home dogs during Week 1, 22-7 against the spread, including 9-2 against the spread since 2018 and 17-4 against the spread since 2012, according to Bet Labs. However, I like this Texans team, and I actually think that you're getting a bargain. It's unfortunate because we're recording this show the first week of September, and we all know that these lines have been getting bet into all summer long. So while this line was 1.5, you're looking at 2.5, 3 right now. And, the 3 is a little bit untenable for me personally, but I think you're getting a bargain on the Texans. I think matter of fact, let me ask you guys a question. How many games do you think Anthony Richardson has started since he left high school?
20.
I was going to say way less than that. A dozen.
17.
Close.
Okay.
So the difference.
This guy does not have any experience at all. During the preseason, he was 10 of 18 for 55% completion percentage, 111 yards, 1 interception, and 1 touchdown. So if you ask me, he's going up against a D'Amico Ryans defense, and we know he's solid. He's going up against C.J. Stroud. I think if they get into a negative game script, the Texans could blow this team out. And I think later on in the year is where you want to take this Colts team. The Colts are just 14-1 against the spread in Week 1 since 2008. So they're clearly not getting ready to prepare. So I'm looking at the Texans here at any price less than 3.
Interesting. House, you on the Texans in this game?
I'm not. I'm not gonna play this game. In the mandatory picks pools, I'm taking the Colts just to ride the trend.
Be a little different. Home dog. I get it.
I do think there is a difference to be observed with Shane Steichen at head coach. Shane Steichen understanding what he has in Anthony Richardson. Like, I was just so impressed by what Steichen did in his first year as head coach with that offense. And his offensive line is better now. And part of the reason why I also am inclined to stay away, Houston wasn't great on the road last year. They lost games, that where they were favored. They lost, there was a lot of discomfort for Houston. And it's exactly what you would expect out of a young team. So I don't want to have any exposure to Houston on the road this early in the season, and definitely not in a division game. My lean is Colts, but otherwise it's a stay away.